African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
It's a beautiful late autumn afternoon. There's a slight breeze blowing, there's clear skies, and the perfect conditions for a safari. This is Safari Live. Ready? Standing by.
Five, four, three, two, one. You are live, you are live.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Sunset Safari. My name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Fergus, and we're out on our bushwalk, and it promises to be a wonderful day. As you can see behind me, we already found some of our first animals. Now, before we get going and get into anything, we need to welcome the 3 schools that are joining us this afternoon. So, a warm welcome to Centresville, to North Londonderry, and to Grady Brown. I hope you guys will enjoy your afternoon safari with us and that you will love every minute of the African wilderness. Now, being on a bushwalk means that we are going to try and see if we can't find some of the smaller things as well as a lot of the animals. We're going to see if we can't find some elephants for you on foot, as well as some impalas that we have in the background here. And so if you have any questions, remember you can ask your teachers and they'll be able to send us through your questions, and we'll try and answer as many questions as is possible. And for our regular viewers or new viewers, remember that you still can ask questions on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, and we will try and answer those a little bit later after the school drive. Now, like I said, we do have some impalas behind us, and so these impalas are all coming out into this open area because of a bit of wind. So Fergus and I are going to try see if we can't get a little bit closer so we can show you them a little bit better. And while we do that, let's go over to my good friend Jamie so that she can say hello.
A very good afternoon to all of you, and welcome on our Sunset Safari, starting off with some zebra. And a very special welcome to the schools joining us this afternoon. Kids, I hope you're super excited to go out on a live safari, because what you're seeing is happening right here in real life. Definitely real life, here in South Africa. So I hope you're all very, very excited. My name is Jamie, and this afternoon Craig is on camera with me, and we've started off our afternoon with one of the most photogenic creatures of the African bush, a herd of zebra. And they're definitely one of my favorite animals to sit and watch, just because they are, first of all, they're very pretty with those black and white stripes, but also because we actually don't get to see them all that often. So it's really nice to have found this particular herd on the open area outside of our camp. All of these animals are right outside where we live. Oh! What happened, big girl? Did you get a fright? I think that other zebra just startled her. Now she's going to go and scratch her chin on her, looks like a daughter, could be a son, it's hard to tell from this angle. Now, what we've got here is a herd of zebra, and the way that zebra work is the boy zebra will actually collect a group of females. So the male zebra will have a group of females, his harem, and he will guard them jealously against other males. And he'll also look after them and protect them. Those tails are swinging so beautifully in unison there. So somewhere over here is the male stallion, and he's protecting, and he will always walk at the back of the herd, and then the females will walk in front. Now, how many of you saw the birds that are sitting on the back of the zebra? Why do you think birds might be sitting up there? I'm going to tell you. The reason that they sit there is zebra pick up all sorts of parasites when they're out wandering through the long grass, especially ticks. Now, a tick is a type of, well, let's go with insect. It's a type of arthropod that embeds itself in the animal's skin, and it sucks their blood, and it makes it very, very itchy. And most of the time it's not dangerous for the animals, but it's very uncomfortable, and it makes them their skin very, very itchy. Now those birds sit there and they help the zebra because they come and they comb through the zebra's fur and they pull the ticks out of the zebra's skin and then they eat them. So that's what the birds feed on. There we go. Now you see the zebra look quite pudgy. And that's because the way that a zebra digestive system works is they produce lots and lots and lots of gas. So it doesn't mean that they're fat at all. It just means that they have lots of gas in their bellies. Now, Karen, you want to know how much can a zebra weigh? They're actually very big animals, up to around about 300 kilograms, sometimes even more, which is over 600 pounds. That's a lot of zebra. Over 600 pounds of animal. So that's quite big. And they are very, very fast as well. So even though they look big, they can run as fast as horses can, if they need to. But they're not horses. They're related to horses, but they're not horses. And you can't ride them. These are completely wild zebra. And if I were to try and to ride one, they'd probably run away from me. And if I still tried, I could get kicked or bitten. So they're not horses at all, even though they look very similar. And that's because they're related to, but they're not the same thing as a domestic horse. And you'd actually really hurt their back if you tried to ride them. And why do you think they're swishing their tails? Lots of tail swishing happening there. And they're doing that because they're sweeping the flies away. And there are lots of biting flies out here. They like to sit on the sensitive skin of the zebra. So the zebras swish their tails like that to keep the flies from settling on their skin and biting them. And Kylie, yes, I guess you could say that zebras are roughly the size of a pony. They're not very, very tall. So although they can weigh over 600 pounds, they're not super tall like like many of the different horse breeds that you get out here. So they are roughly the size of a pony. They're roughly the height of a pony. But again, as I said, you definitely can't ride them. Should we see if we can sneak up a little bit closer to these zebra? Maybe they'll let us get closer and we can have a little bit of a closer look at them. And hello to Violet. Violet, thank you for sending through your question. Let's see if we can get a nice image for you to look at before we answer your question about the stripes. There we go. Hello. There we go. If I stop here, then they won't run away. Just at the point where they won't let me get any closer. Now, Violet, you want to know, how do zebras get their stripes? There's a young zebra. That one on the left there is actually quite young. It's still actually not fully grown. There we go. But zebra are born with their stripes. So that's just the way that their fur grows. That's the pattern that their fur grows in. So you know how sometimes you've got different streaks of color in your hair? Well, zebra are kind of similar. Their genetics create these stripes when they are born. So they're born with fur, and already that fur is stripy. And they've found themselves a nice patch of shade because it's actually quite hot here. Even though it's winter for us, it is very warm. It's 26 degrees centigrade, so 79 in Fahrenheit. That's quite warm, especially considering it is midwinter. Now, have any of you spotted the odd animal out there? Because it's not just zebra. There's also a wildebeest standing in the shade. Our wildebeest is a type of antelope, which makes it different from a zebra. They are very similar in size, but they're a completely different animal. That's a young wildebeest. You can see its horns haven't grown fully. They're still just starting to grow. Ooh, Melanie, that is a very good question. Melanie is asking about the zebra, and Melanie wants to know how zebras got their name. Melanie, I have absolutely no idea. Oh, let me keep my head out of the way. That is a very good question. I am going to assume that it... I don't know whether it came from Greek or if it came from Hebrew. That's a very good question. I don't know the answer. I will have to find out for you, Melanie. While I do that, James has got the right idea. He's gone to visit a local waterhole.
I'm at a waterhole, everybody, and welcome. I'm very happy to meet all of you. Some of you probably again, some of you maybe for the first time. That is a Birchall Starling, and my name is James, and you can ask us any questions you like during the course of the next 45 minutes or so. And you all, as you know now, all you need to do is send those questions to your teacher and she will send them into my ear, or Jamie's ear, or Tristan's ear. So that's a good thing. That's a very special bird because it's so specially coloured, don't you think? It's called a Birchall Starling, and the reason, of course, that Jamie said that we had a good idea to be near the water was because it's quite hot, and that means there might be animals coming down to drink. The Birchall Starling, however, is not too worried about what he's going to drink. Actually, he's looking for little grasshoppers, and there are lots of grasshoppers around, and so that's what he's going to be eating for his supper and his lunch and his breakfast. And I'm sure many of you are very glad that you don't have to eat grasshoppers for breakfast, lunch and supper. Then we were also very lucky just now. We had a monkey not far from here, so what I think we should do is, once we've looked at the glorious colours of the Birchall Starling, we're going to go a little bit forward and see if we can't spot those monkeys again. Isn't he wonderful? Now, you know, I know he looks blue and he looks green and he looks purple and all of that, but he's not actually that colour at all. It's a very clever trick of the light bouncing off his feathers, which are basically black. And isn't that amazing? Look at those beautiful colours. The sun is sort of dancing on his feathers. And there are lots of starlings that are that colour, and in fact there are lots of birds that are that beautiful colour because of that very clever technique of allowing the sun to dance off a substance that we call keratin. But you don't need to remember that. You can learn that about that a bit later. All you need to do is know that this is a Birchall Starling and they eat lots of grasshoppers. Melanie, as I've just said, they eat grasshoppers, and that's what he's looking for. He's looking for some grasshoppers on the ground there. There are lots of grasshoppers around at the moment. And we're just going to drive down here and see if our monkeys are not nearby. We did see some just before I saw you for the first time. So I think let's just pop around the corner here. There they are. Can you see them there? Yeah. Sebastian is on camera, everybody. So when I say, do you see them there? Well, I'm also talking to Sebastian. Look at them there. Wonderful. They look very happy and relaxed. They're just walking along the riverbed here, looking for some fruits. They also will eat grasshoppers and things. There are not many fruits at this time of the year, but they'll eat some fresh green leaves sometimes, and sometimes they'll dig up the roots of, say, some grass species, and they'll eat those. They have lots and lots of different kinds of things that they eat. And they're what we called an omnivore. You know what an omnivore eats? I'm sure many of you know that a herbivore eats only vegetation, so leaves and grasses and vegetables. A carnivore eats only meat, and an omnivore eats both meat and vegetables. So I'm sure most of you are omnivores. Some people are vegetarians or herbivores, but monkeys are omnivores. They don't normally make too much of a choice. They'll eat whatever they can. And especially as we go towards our winter, I know it seems strange given the temperature out here at the moment, which is probably sitting at around about, I'd say, 78 degrees Fahrenheit or so. Well, you would be surprised to learn that we were in the winter time. But even though we're going towards the winter, it's a difficult time for the animals. So they have to try and constantly spend a long time finding things to eat. Now, Ivy, you have noticed something very clever, and you've noticed that the monkey's hands and feet look similar. Well, they look similar because they actually perform a very similar function. Now, if you watch this little thing, hopefully it will climb. Its hands, or its feet, look like its hands so that it can grip, it can hold. Just the same way that your hands hold. Now, imagine you lived in a tree and you didn't do too much walking. Well, then it would be much better if you had a foot that could hold onto the branches. That's why monkeys are much better climbers than human beings. It's because they've got feet that can hold as well. We don't have feet that can hold because we walk everywhere. We are what we call terrestrial. That means we walk on the ground. Again, you don't have to remember that word, but just remember that we walk on the ground, and that's why our feet can't grip or hold things, and the monkey's feet can grip and hold things because it is a climber. It spends much more time climbing up and down in the trees than it does on the ground. I know these ones are on the ground at the moment, but that's basically why. Nyla, what a nice question you ask. Also, obviously very clever kids today. You say, how many monkey species are there in South Africa? There are actually only 2. We don't have many monkeys here. There's this thing called the Vervet monkey, and then there's something with a slightly fluffier face called a Somango monkey, and the Somango monkey lives in the forests that we have here. This is what we call woodland. We wouldn't call this forest. And the 2 of them occur in South Africa. Then we do get other primates. Remember, primates include things like baboons, and we've got baboons also, and they're very funny to watch if you can see them. We'll try and find some baboons during the course of the drive. So over here we get baboons and monkeys, but in South Africa, the actual true monkeys, we get these vervet monkeys and then the Somangos. Now, my friend Tristan, very large fellow that he is, has managed to sneak up on some of the most common antelope we get here.
Well, James, we've been trying to sneak up to them, but it just goes to show you how incredibly good they are at spotting things. We've been trying to get closer and closer and closer, and we can't get any closer than what we are now. So they're in the distance slightly, and that's because every time we try and get a little bit closer, they're able to see us, and because they are animals that get hunted by all of our big predators, like lion and leopard and varying other ones, it becomes very, very difficult for them to be calm. And so what they do is they see any movement, and immediately they look there, and the whole herd will turn their eyes. And because there's lots and lots and lots of them, lots of eyes, lots of ears, lots of noses, it means that they detect us very quickly. So we're really struggling to get very close to them at all. They keep running away from us. But what we're trying to do is just trying to see if we sit quietly and we sit low down like this, then maybe they'll start drifting a little bit back. Now, Carson, you're wondering why the impalas have horns. Well, it's only the daddy impalas that have horns, and the reason that they have horns is so that they can fight with other daddy impalas and to basically get a dominance, so to make sure that they are the big boss of this area, and therefore they can get their best place to be able to survive. And so that's why they have horns, is to fight. It's not actually to defend themselves. You would think that they would have the horns so that they could try and chase off a lion or a leopard, but no, the horns are there so that they can fight with other daddy impalas. Now, the females, or the mommies, they don't have any horns at all because they don't need to fight. And so, like I was saying, because the horns actually aren't used for defense themselves, there's no need for the females to have them. But I see our impalas are moving away a little bit, so I think what we and if we can't carry on, this herd is too clever for us and definitely can see where we are, so we're going to try and see if we can't find something else to go and walk, and to try and see if we can't find those elephants. We know that there were some elephants around during the day, so I'm going to try and see if I can't head into that direction. So let's have a look and see if we can't find some signs of them. We're going to look for any footprints or dung, and then we're going to try and see if we can't sneak up on them. But we have to be very careful because we have to use the wind to our advantage as well as where the sun is coming from, and make sure that we're very well hidden, because the elephants are much more dangerous than the impalas. Now, while we go and do that, let's go across to Jamie and see what she's got. But I think she's got one of the tallest animals we have out here.
I do indeed, Tristan. I have the tallest animal that we get out here in the form of this big male giraffe. and he's staring contentedly down at us. This has actually been a very, very patient giraffe, because I only saw him at the last minute, and I've stopped right next to him, so he's actually let us get really close to him, and now he's standing staring down at us. And he really is very, very tall, and it's a big male giraffe, or a bull giraffe, and I know that just because of his sheer size. He's absolutely massive. And then, of course, the fact that if you look at the top of his head, you see those things on the top there? They look like horns. They're not horns. They're called ossicones. And can you see how the tops of them are rubbed bald? Now that comes from fighting with other male giraffe. And his ossicones, or horns, but remember, they're not called horns, they're called ossicones. His ossicones are big and thick and strong, because that's what he uses to fight off other males. And what he does is he swings his big neck down, and he hits his male opponents with his head on the sides or on the legs. That's the way that giraffe fight. Now, Carson, you want to know how long is the giraffe's neck. Carson, a giraffe's neck is probably around about 6 feet long. So it's a really, really long thing. I would say that this male giraffe, from the bottom of his neck right up to the bottom of his chin, not counting his head, I would say that's about 6 feet, around about 2 meters long. Possibly even longer in a really, really big giraffe. And in total, he's probably, I would say, around about 5 meters tall. That's about 15 feet. So if you went and sat on your friend's shoulders, and then they had another friend sit on their shoulders and vice versa, you'd probably have to have about, I would say, 6 or 7 of you, all sitting on each other's shoulders to reach the height of the giraffe. Please, please don't try that after this. I think somebody will fall down and get hurt. Oh, he's really very tall. Okay, there we go. Kylie and Parker. Now we've talked about the height. You want to know how much a giraffe will weigh. Well, there's quite a big difference between the females and the males. And in fact, the females are around about I would say at least a foot or 2 feet shorter than the males. And there's a big difference in weight as well. So a big male giraffe like this, he could easily weigh a ton. So that's over 2,000 pounds, over a ton in weight. A female's going to be a little bit less than that. They'll be around about 800 or so kilograms. So not quite as heavy as a big giraffe bull, but he could easily be 1,000 kilograms. So that makes them much heavier than those zebra. We saw the zebra earlier. That would make him, what would that make him? About 3 times the weight of a zebra. Oh, there we go. Another number for us. Will, hello to you. Will, you want to know how long can giraffes live? Giraffe can actually live to be over 20 years old in the wild. Obviously, in captivity, in a place like a zoo, the giraffe's probably going to live a little bit longer because there's no predators and they get really, really nice food. Whereas out here, they'll get good food during our rainy season and they'll get not so good food during our dry season. At the moment, we've just finished with our rainy season, so the food's still pretty good. But we're going to go into our dry season, so the food won't be as nice for him. But over 20 years old, sometimes up to 25. I don't know how old this giraffe is. I would guess and say he's over 10 years old, but it's hard for me to say for sure without looking at his teeth. Well, we almost got the biggest animal that we see out here, but James has found one that is even bigger.
Well, this is a smallish example of what is going to become the biggest animal out here. This is a young bull elephant, and he's all on his own. He's quite young to be on his own. I think that he is only around about 10 years old, you know. Maybe he's 11 or so. But he should be with the rest of the herd. Now, I'm pretty sure that there must be a herd around here somewhere, because 11 or 12 is very young for an elephant to be on his own. But he quite likes us. He's coming a little bit closer. Isn't he magnificent? Of course, when he's about 17, he will be on his own. That's when they go off on their own. And then they live a life that is largely what we call solitary. That's a really nice word. Solitary life. And they've finished spending time with their families. Oh, we've got lovely tusks. Although they're not very big, but you can see they're very dirty. So, I don't know, I'm sure your mum and dad are always complaining at you and telling you to clean your teeth and brush your teeth, which of course you should do. But this elephant has not been brushing his teeth, and those tusks are teeth. He's been digging with them. Then you can see also just that little bit of what we might call sleep in his eyes. Elephants do have tears, like we have tears. They don't cry, but they do make moisture out of their eyes, and sometimes it mixes with the dust, and then you have that sort of white patch there in the front of the eye. It's exactly the same as when you wake up in the morning and you find that sort of crispy, crackly bit in the corners of your eyes. Kylie, this is a question that's really quite difficult to answer. You say, why do elephants have saggy skin? Well, it's not so much saggy as it is wrinkly, isn't it? See, it's not sagging, it's not hanging off him, but it is wrinkly. And I think, and this is quite a complicated thing to understand, basically it makes his surface area larger. Now, I know that's quite difficult to understand, but basically all you have to remember is that it helps him to lose heat. So it helps them to not get too hot out here in the summertime when the temperature can often go over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. This really helps them perhaps to lose some heat. And so we think that's why they've got wrinkly skin. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Well, Ivy and Sean, you ask a very good question about why they are grey. Well, Ivy and Sean, they're grey because that's actually a really clever colour to be out here. That's one reason. You can see, well, you can't see so well now because, of course, it's green all around, and so it looks like grey is relatively easy to see. But it isn't easy to see. Grey is actually, for many of the predators out here, quite difficult to see. And so what you will find is that when it's winter time and the bush is very thin and all the green has gone, elephants can disappear almost completely. But the other reason is that to be any other color, to make hair that is a different color, to be able to, say, be red like an impala or black and white like a zebra that you saw, that's expensive. It costs the body quite a lot to do that. And if it's not really, really necessary, then an animal will not do it. Ooh, look at him. He's coming nice and close to us now. Now, Isabella and Lindsay, you're wondering why they've got such very large ears. Well, there's a very good reason why they have large ears, and that's because we live out here in a place where it gets really hot and there's not a great deal of shade. And that means that these elephants, again, have to lose heat. Remember, I was telling you about having to lose heat through their wrinkly skin. Well, those ears help them to lose heat as well. And it helps them in a really clever way. It helps them because all of the blood in the whole body of the elephant will pump through those ears in less than 20 minutes. And if you watch them in the summertime, a little bit like he's doing now, they flap their ears gently from front to back, and what that does is cool the blood that is in those ears, and that blood then flows into the brain. Oh, I can hear another elephant. And as I'm sure all of you know, your brain is the most important organ in your body. If your brain gets too hot, then it can't tell your heart what to do, it can't tell your liver what to do, it can't tell your lungs what to do, it can't tell your muscles what to do, and so you'll have difficulty breathing, and you'll forget to drink, and you won't eat properly, and you won't be able to walk properly. And so it's very important that the blood in the brain is kept cool, and that's why the elephant has such big ears. All the blood flows through the ears get flapped, the blood cools down, and then it goes into the brain and keeps the brain nice and cool, so that it can tell everything in the body to work properly. And look, he's quite young, so he's still got a little bit of fluff on the top of his head. Now, it's a bit unlike us, as you know, when human men get older, we get hairier. Well, not on our heads, some of us, but all over the rest of our bodies. And elephants are completely different. When they get older, they lose all of their hair. Liliana, you want to know if elephants can be different colours. Liliana, I'm afraid elephants cannot be different colours. They are all grey. But sometimes you get a very, very rare condition called albinism. And that happens when you have a very strange thing that goes on when the little baby is born, and it comes out pure white, completely white. And that means that it's not grey, it's white, and those elephants don't last very long because they can't survive in the harsh African sun. They need to be grey in order to not get burned by the sun. That grey is very helpful when they are trying to not be burned by the sun. So that's another very good reason why they're grey. I'm not sure why I didn't think of that before. There he goes, he's disappearing into some thick bush. He's going to go and see a friend. And so I think we'll probably move on from here. And while we do that, we're going to send you all the way up to East Africa, where my friend Brent is sitting with what looks like a dinosaur.
Ooh, there we go. Look at that. We're in Kenya with a Mara River monster. And welcome to the Masai Mara. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I have my good friend Dangerous Dave on camera, and we're sitting on the edge of the Mara River. And you can see it's quite a dangerous spot if we were wandering around or paddling in the shadows. Oh, look at that one gulping there. What's it doing? I think it's just got a piece of stick stuck in its mouth. Now, when you see crocodiles with their mouths open, lying on the side of the river like that, it generally means they are trying to cool down. So they open their mouth, they've got lots of blood vessels inside their mouth, and a nice gentle breeze will cool them down. But there, you can see there's quite a few of them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out in the water on that side, and there's a couple more a bit closer to us that we can't see. They're just below the bank. And there's some hippopotamuses as well. Hello, hippos in the river. And there seems to be an uneasy truce between the hippos and crocodiles of the Mara River. Now, it's because it's such a unique thing that happens here, is that these crocodiles only really eat for a couple of times a year when the great wildebeest migration arrives. Oh, look, that croc's on the move. Might come back into the water. Here we go. Or was it just swapping positions? No, just swapping positions. Hi, Carson. Carson is wondering, can a crocodile kill a lion? Most certainly it can. As a lion can kill a crocodile, but if a lion, and the lions do swim across this river regularly, happen to do it in the wrong spot where there's a big croc around, it can get them into very big trouble. And a crocodile is an opportunistic predator and will eat a lion just as quickly as it'll eat a wildebeest or an impala. Oh, another bit of movement. I think they're just scooching about to the left of me. There's another croc moving. Scooching about, maybe looking for a different bit of sand that's a bit more comfortable. Dusty is wondering, can a croc eat a turtle whole? Indeed they can, Dusty, and I've actually seen them do it. And at Djuma, where James, Jamie and Tristan are, I've seen crocodiles eat turtles. Not big turtles, but still turtles nonetheless, but they are capable of cracking open a turtle's shell. Now, this is also not only a very good area for crocodiles, but also for lions. And I saw some lions very close to here this morning, and I'm hoping I'm going to be able to find them again for you. So it is very exciting. They were probably about 2 miles from where we are now. So I think we're going to leave the crocodiles and hippos to laze around on the bank and in the water, and we're going to start moving off to see what else we can find. Now, there are some other creatures around before we disappear. There's some topi on the opposite bank, which is a relative of the hartebeest and one of the fastest antelope in Africa, capable of running up to about 80 kilometers an hour. So they're also sometimes called the policeman of the Masai Mara. Now, you would think, why would you call an antelope a policeman? He's not going to stop anyone doing anything. Well, it's because they've got such good eyesight. They climb up on top of the termite mounds, and they keep a really good lookout. So if a lion or a leopard or a cheetah or even a hyena is up to no good looking to try catch one of them, the topi will start saying, I see you, and tells all the other animals that there's a predator about, and that gives them a chance to escape. So all the animals don't like the topi too much, because quite often he's too fast to catch, and he spots them before all the other animals. But we're going to keep moving, and while we do that, it sounds like Tristan's got something that there are not too many of here at the moment, but there'll be more than 1 million in a few short months.
They will indeed, Brent, and I'm sure you're looking forward to the arrival of all these zebras into the Masai Mara. But down here in the Sabi Sands in South Africa, we don't get quite as many zebras as they do up in Kenya, but we get small groups that have now just run away, because that's what happens sometimes. It's probably because the wind is blowing a little bit and they've caught our scent. But Ferg, let's see if we can't get a little bit closer. So we did have some zebras, but they are quite sort of skittish animals. They can see very well, so they can then get away from you a little bit when they sort of spot you. Their eyesight is so good, and they'll be able to move away. Now, Sam, because ours disappeared, you were probably wondering how fast they can run. Well, a zebra will probably do, on good flat terrain, can get up to about 80 kilometers an hour. So they can run very, very fast, and they have to, because the lions also do about 80 kilometers an hour. And for a zebra, a lion is the biggest threat. There we go, Ferg, now we can see them. So they're just sitting there. Now we're right out in the open, so unfortunately I don't have anywhere to hide, so they can see me very, very clearly, and that's why they're a bit nervous. They know that people on foot can sometimes mean a predator, and so they're then a bit more wary. If we were in a car like Jamie and James and Brent, you'd find these zebras wouldn't worry about us at all. But from years and years and years and years of people trying to hunt them and trying to feed off them, they see a person as a predator, and that's why on foot it's much, much harder to get anywhere near the animals. You have to walk very slowly, and you have to think about which way the wind is blowing. Now, luckily for us, the wind is coming from where the zebras are to us, but we don't really have any cover. We don't have anywhere where we can hide, and when you try to get close to animals, if you can have somewhere where you can hide, then generally you have a lot better chance of getting a bit closer. Now, this herd that we have here will be one daddy zebra and then some mommy zebras and their babies, and that's how it works here. We have zebras that are a little bit more sort of stationary, and they stay in the same area, whereas in Kenya, where Brent is, those zebras move a long distance to follow the rains. So, teachers, you're wondering if a zebra comes from an egg. No, teachers, zebra is a mammal. Alright, so eggs are for reptiles and birds. Mammals are ones that are when they are born, they come out as a whole animal. So they are born from their mommy, and they come out exactly like they are now. They then grow a little bit and get a bit bigger, but they don't lay eggs. They give birth to live young. So it's not like a bird or a reptile that will lay their eggs. And you can see this is the big daddy zebra in front. So he's coming to make sure that we're not a threat. He's coming out to look at us and make sure that we are not going anywhere near his females and his babies, and making sure that they're very safe. So he's being a good dad. Well done, Mr. Zebra. Now, we're going to probably watch our zebras for a little bit longer, because they are the most beautiful animal. And while we do that, I believe James has found one of our pigs that we get out here.
Well, that's not a pig you're looking at, I'm afraid. That's an impala. The pig's just gone behind. Oh, there's a pig. There's one on the road. And it's called a warthog. Can you see the warthog there, everybody? That warthog is very similar to the animal. In fact, it's exactly the same as the animal that you saw in The Lion King. If any of you have seen The Lion King, that's a Pumbaa. Let's go a little bit forward and see if the Pumbas are around the corner. Oh, a whole lot of them went running across there. Lots of them there. Let's move a little bit closer. Apparently. Alright, let's go across to Tristan. We have a little bit of trouble with our signal.
Well, sometimes we have these naughty little gremlins that get into the signal and they cause things to break up and it makes life a little bit difficult. But that's the best part about being in the bush, is sometimes there are these little things that make our lives a little bit more challenging, but it definitely makes it more worth it when we do find lots of things. Now, our zebras are still sitting here and we just slowly kind of walking towards them. I don't want to scare them, but I want them to just get used to our presence. So if you go and you walk every day and you go close to the zebras, then sometimes they can get a little bit more used to you, and then it makes it much nicer when we're walking around here that we can show you the zebras very, very clearly. Now you'll find that the zebra's tail is moving quite a bit, and that's because of the amount of insects that are around. So they are busy waving like that to try and get rid of all the flies that are landing on them because it's very uncomfortable. Now Karen, you're wondering why a zebra has a mohawk. Well, that's because it protects the neck area from when they're fighting with one another. Zebras have very, very sharp teeth and they'll often try and bite on the neck of the other animal, and that means that helps just to protect there, and it's like a big cushion. So imagine if you were being bitten by one of your siblings, if you had a cushion on you, then your sibling can bite there and it's not going to hurt. And it's the same thing with the zebras, so that's why they have that thicker bit of hair around the top of the neck, because when they try and bite, that's where they'll kind of go for. So that's the reason why they have it. There's no other real use for it otherwise. It's just longer hair that helps for protection. Now they are kind of moving off. You can see the males just at the back making sure that there is nobody coming and hunting his herd from behind. So we're going to probably leave him alone and not disturb him any further. Now I was hoping that there would be some birds with them, because there is a type of bird that spends time with the zebras making sure that they're nice and clean, so it will land on them and then it feeds off all the parasites, but I can't see any today, which is a bit of a shame because normally they are around. So I was hoping to see them, but they seem to be missing as well. So we're going to keep going and see what else we can find. The other nice thing about being on bushwalk is that you can look at all the smaller things, so you can look for little insects and little bugs and those kind of things. So we're going to try see if we can't find some of those. Now Nathan, you're wondering what the zebra's predators are. Well, here in this part of the world there are lots of different predators. So we get lions, leopard, hyena, cheetah, wild dog, even sometimes pythons will go after baby zebras. So they have lots and lots of predators. It means that life is very, very tough for them. When they get big like that zebra that we saw there, that male, then it's more likely only lions. That's even too big for the leopards. But when they're very small, you'll find that there's lots of different predators that can go after them. Now I've also spotted some other animals here that often like to hang around with zebras, and these are called wildebeest or gnu. And when Brent was talking about lots of zebras coming to Kenya, he means that they'll be arriving with these guys, and there'll be lots and lots and lots of them. And I don't know if some of you have maybe watched some TV where you've seen these guys all crossing the river, and the crocodiles that you saw earlier chasing them. That's all in Kenya. But here in South Africa we don't have that many of them, although this is a nice group that we get on the open area. And the wildebeest is an Afrikaans word, which is the language that is spoken here in South Africa, and it basically means wild beast. So wilde is wild, and beest is a beast. So it refers to the fact that they occur in areas where it's bushy and that they are of a sort of wild nature. They're not something that you would farm with or anything like that. The nice thing though is that they're not very aggressive animals, so it's not animals that we have to be worried about on foot. They're not going to chase us or hurt us unless we try and go after them. If we stand like this and just watch them, you can see they're not really worried about us. They're having a nice feed and they're not too stressed about our presence at all. What you also will notice with the wildebeest is that their shoulders on their front legs are much higher than their back legs. And the reason for that is so that when they run, they have a far more energy efficient running style. So what that means is when they're running, they don't get tired as quickly as something like the zebra would. And that means when these guys move the big distance that they like to move and the big journeys that they go on, it's like when you go on holiday from your house to somewhere far away. The wildebeest do the same thing, and the reason why they do that is for food. And that longer front legs means that they are able to run for longer and to keep it going for a longer period. Right, unfortunately, that's all we've got time for our schools. I hope you've had a wonderful time with us and you've enjoyed all the animals of Africa. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. So we'll see you all again next time.
And so we continue on with our regular sunset safari. And of course, day in a life for us means desperately driving around off-road, trying to find something. In my case, it means trying to find where Tristan left the lions this morning. Somewhere? I've been trying to follow his off-road tracks, but it's proving to be rather tricky. It's much easier when they're fresh rather than a couple of hours old, especially since he was the only vehicle that came in here. Okay. Well, we'll figure it out. The Mulwati's over there. They've got to be here somewhere. They're just going to be lying flat in the shade. I think I found them. No, I didn't. So, send through your questions on #SafariLive on Twitter. Gut instinct says go that way rather than this way. The problem is I'm following an off-road track, but I think it's the off-road track from Taxon from 2 afternoons ago, which isn't helpful at all. And Tristan very kindly left a branch in the road, which was fine and well, until I got to a patch of hard ground with not enough grass to look flattened, and now I don't know where to go. I can't keep driving aimlessly through the block though. Maybe I can. Shade, that's where the lions are going to be. For those of you that missed the sunrise safari, Tristan had a mating pair of lions, one Birmingham boy and one mystery lioness. We don't know who she is, and right at this point we don't know where she is either. I heard Tristan crunching around in here. I hope she's not in there. I hope they're not in there. That's going to be hugely inconvenient. In the monkey orange thicket. Okay, well, I guess it's back to the drawing board, which means back to where I last had Tristan's tracks, which are about a couple of 100 meters back that way. I just figured I'd follow my nose, but it hasn't worked out so well. Okay, I'm going to see how far I can disappear into this particular block. While we do that, let's go back to James, who at least has some entertaining animals for you.
Indeed, some entertaining animals. I think possibly the same herd that we finished our drive with this morning, if you were on drive with us today, and of course you should have been, even if you were at work. Very important to be on safari while at work, helps you get through the day. And they have they're sort of gliding slowly along here, half eating, half not, half having a little bit of a dust bath now and then. But we're just going to sit here and wait and see what they do. I'll tell you where we are. We're on the southern parts of Djuma and waiting to see if perhaps they don't want to go down towards Chitwa Dam for some water. I think it's quite likely that they will go and have a drink later today. There's also a squirrel alarm calling. They wouldn't be alarming at the elephants. Let's just sneak forward, shall we? Because we've only got a buttocks. And while, you know, if you're going to look at a bottom, elephants' bottoms are some of the best in the business. There's a leopard. There's a leopard.
That's what Scooter was looking at.
Bonjour. Bon après-midi. Sebastian, say hello to the leopard. I think it is Thandi. Is it? Oh, and Thamba.
Yep.
What a stroke of luck. Elephants coming up behind us, leopards moving off. This is wonderful. Andrew, come in. Andrew, come in. Andrew, turn round. We've got Thandi and Thamba here on the fire break, now mobile in a easterly direction. Isn't that wonderful, everybody? Thandi and Thamba. If you are a new viewer, these two are, well, they're fast becoming some very major Safari Live characters. In the absence of Thandi's mother, who was our famous queen, unfortunately now they're moving south, and we can't go where they are going to go, I don't think. And now they're moving because of the elephants just behind us. Just going to tell Andrew, that's why the squirrels were shouting, everybody. Andrew, she's going to pop out onto Gari Main now. I'm just telling Andrew, who's just driven past in his game drive vehicle. Isn't that special? Oh, they're going to go south. Well, I tell you why it's so exciting is that we were tracking them this morning and hoping to see them. And their tracks went south of our boundary a long way from here. Here comes the little one. He's not so little anymore. Gosh, that was a real lucky spot. So unfortunately we can't go south of the boundary here because this is onto a reserve called Little Gari, where we don't have traversing. We're currently on a reserve called Djuma, as many of you will know. And there go beautiful golden Thandi and her big-eared cub, Thamba. There he is. And I think, how old is he? Isn't he 8 months now? I think he's 8 months old. I can never remember when he was born because we haven't spent a lot of time with him. But we're now starting to spend more and more time with him as the Queen has disappeared. And that's probably going to be the last view we have of them. What we are going to do, though, is head around towards Chitwa Dam, which is just over here, and there's a little road down there that we can travel, and maybe they'll head that way. Wasn't that special? Well done, Seb. Right, shall we head back towards those elephants now? That's a stroke of luck. I think there might be some viewers on that vehicle there. They're waving at us frantically. Alright, let's head across to Tristan. He's going to help Jamie find those two other cats. We'll go and re-find these elephants.
Well, we definitely are going to try see if we can help Jamie with those lions, because I know exactly where we left them, and it really is not an easy place at all. Jamie's been going around in circles and is battling to find where I left those lions, so I'm going to quickly try and get there and see if we can't find them on foot. But we've got a bit sidetracked because we have a beautiful male giraffe behind us. He's really, really big, and he's busy just staring at us and watching what we're doing, and I'm sure this is the male that's been hanging around quite a bit around the sort of dam area and Gari Dam and the Vuatela area. I've seen him in the last 2 days on the dam cam, so I think it's the same bull, and he's been hanging around and sort of just moving around very slowly and seems to be one of the most gentle, sort of very relaxed giraffe I've seen in a long time. He doesn't really worry about too much. But you can see how good their eyesight is already from here. He spotted us and he's just watching us very, very carefully. And this is typical of giraffe. They're not like zebras or wildebeest that will move away from you when they see you. These guys will just keep you in eye shot, and as soon as you walk closer, they'll then start to move away. When they feel like you've crossed a certain distance that they don't feel as though they can get away from you, then they start to walk. But isn't he magnificent? You can see how well they actually blend in. If he had to move slightly to the right there, behind that tree, it would be quite difficult to spot him. And that's because of that sort of broken pattern that he has. It is very sort of difficult once they get behind a tree to actually make them out. And that is the point of spots, is just to help break up the outline and make it a lot harder to see. Right, we're not going to spend too much time with him because I want to try and help Jamie as quick as possible. I also don't want to have to worry too much about tracking lines in the dark, so we're going to try and get there while we still got really, really good light and see if we can't get a little bit closer. Now the reason why I know he's a male giraffe just while we walking past him is because of his ossicones. He has big thick ossicones on top of his head, also darker coloration, which is not always correct to use for male or female, but most males are darker than what females are. It sometimes is a bit genetic, but you will find that males will be darker for the most part. That, just coupled with his size, that he's massive. That animal is probably standing about 5 meters tall. He's not, I don't think he's a very old male, because I was looking at him a few days ago. His ears are actually quite sort of whole and not too many cuts or tears in them. So I think he's a fairly young male, but he was about 5 meters tall, which is absolutely massive. Now, we are rushing to try and get to that area to help Jamie. So while we do that, let's go across to Jamie, see if she's had any luck while we've been with the giraffe.
I can't even find the road, let alone the lions. No, I know where the road is, I just can't get to it. I want to see what that is that Craig's just spotted. Hold on. Eagle-eyed Craig, from the back of the vehicle, has seen something interesting looking. Maybe I'll find the lions at the same time. Ah, Craig, it's not as interesting as we thought it was. I also thought it was a skull. 'Tis not. Some kind of a joint. Socket joint. Not quite socket, like a kneecap. Get off me. Just a piece of bone. An old piece of skull. Oh, elephants. I was hoping it was the lions, but it's not. I think this is the best way, because otherwise I'm going to be wandering around, crunching over trees and breaking Rusty even further, and we can't really afford to do that to poor Rusty, especially if Wendy won't start. So we'll move onto the road, check that the lions haven't moved off, which is what Tristan has asked us to do, and then we'll come back in once Tristan's got back to where he left them. He did warn me this afternoon. He did say to me it's going to be rather tricky, unless you know exactly where they are, which of course he does. Whoa. It's going to be very tricky to find them. Now what? Can I get out of here? Yeah, we should be alright. For our new viewers who watch us drive, watch out there, Craig, that's going to hurt if that grabs you. For our new viewers who are just joining us on these live safaris, our regular viewers have got used to us driving along off-road. They know that we pick the trees very carefully that we drive over, young saplings that will spring back up in no time, or else encroachment species, and even then they spring back up. So don't stress, we're not doing any damage. No more damage than a herd of elephants would do walking through an area, so you don't need to worry about that. You need to direct me to the road. That's what I need your help with. I think it's just there. Okay, James has found a feathered friend. Let's go to him.
It's a ground scraper thrush, everybody. I just had a bit of a chuckle there, because it sounds like somebody in the final control is dying of a consumptive cough. I suspect choking on some delicious piece of confectionery created by happiness. Anyway, you know, that's what's called karma when you're eating while the rest of us are working. That there is the beautiful ground scraper thrush, as I said, and there's a pair of them here. and we've moved down south of where Thandi and Thamba crossed the boundary, and we're hoping they will come this little way east. But I'm just listening carefully. I can't hear any birds shouting, but for one or two little bits of chin spot batters calling. And I'm not sure. Louis, how strong is our signal here? Just going to ask Louise how strong our signal is, because we might just roll forward. Okay. We're going to roll forward and just see, there's a road here that we can look into Little Gowrie on. See if she doesn't cross that road. And maybe we will get another view of her. But the signal might drop. There are some kudu running. Now those kudu over there were the ones that initially alerted us to the possible presence of a predator. They were staring into the block, and we thought maybe they were just looking at those elephants. But actually they may have been looking at the leopard. Now, I suspect if we do find her, there will be a decision. I believe, right, we're going to have to stop here because our signal is dropping. There is the kudu. Afshen, Minjan. Ifigile. Ingwela. Ifiganga. I'm sure it Thamba south. Okay. Alright everybody, we're going to head across to Jamie, who has found a road, which is that's a really good achievement in that area. It's not easy to find a road, so you know, I think you should give her a big round of applause now.
Look, it's a round of applause. Haha. I'm giving myself a round of applause for finding the road. It wasn't that hard, I just had to pick a direction and drive in it. It was just finding my way through the thick trees. Okay, so we're going to check all around this area, make sure that the lions haven't come out, and Tristan's going to go bravely marching in to find them for us. And if I hear brrr, then I know he's found them. I'm joking. Chances are, because our walk team is very professional, they will spot before they're too close to the point where they're going to get growled at, and Tristan can direct me in from there, hopefully. That's the way I see things happening in my head. Whether or not it's going to play out like that is an entirely different story. I'm so happy that James found Thandi and Thamba. After the morning spent almost fruitlessly tracking them, we just were one step behind every leopard we tried to follow this morning. That's really, really wonderful, even if it was a brief view. I'm very happy about that. Let's see what Craig and myself are going to find. I could hear an elephant trumpeting off in the distance there. I assume that's where James was with Thandi and Thamba and the elephants at Twin Dams. That would be my guess. So I assume that the noise I'm hearing from there is from those elephants. So if we don't have any luck here, then we might have to head on back in that direction. John, I'm sorry, I had a little chuckle at that. John wants to know, do I think that the animals think that humans smell bad? I would think that perfumes and scented deodorants and perhaps heavily scented shampoos or conditioners, I think those animals must find that smell quite, maybe not bad. I'm not sure what an animal would smell that smells bad, or would interpret as a bad smell. But I think they would interpret it as overpowering. I think it must invade their senses and probably feels uncomfortable for them, because if you have such a sensitive sense of smell, I mean, all of you know there's nothing there are worse things, but it is supremely unpleasant to get into an elevator or something with somebody who's slightly overdone the cologne or the perfume or something. That's just for us with our normal sense of smell. Now imagine it with an animal that's their sense of smell is so much more sensitive than ours. It's probably uncomfortable for them and very foreign. But as to whether or not they think we smell bad, I'm not sure. I'm really not. I think in our natural, relatively natural state, I don't think they'd be too... They wouldn't think we smell bad, but they might associate our smell with fear. That, I think, is a possibility. I mean, I've been tracked many a time by an angry elephant herd smelling me, or us, actually, as a group, and following the smell that we've left behind. And it's clear that our smell upsets them. That's why we stand downwind from the animals, because our smell upsets them. I don't think they think we smell bad, but I think it scares them. They associate it with something very dangerous, and for good reason. For a very long time, human beings would have been hunters. They would have hunted, and of course, I suppose there's a small sector of the population that still are. But we would have been, as a species, trying to survive. That upright figure, that human smell, we would have been something that was threatening to the animals. Fortunately here, I don't think the animals are bothered by our smell, at least when we're in the vehicle, because they're not scared of us in that kind of setting or in that kind of context. Why, just yesterday, while we look at the Impala, and a dwarf mongoose maybe, if we're lucky, just yesterday, I parked behind a vehicle full of guests that had just maybe, slightly overdone the amount of Axe deodorant that was wafting in my direction. That Impala's looking very intent. Oh no, it's calmed down now. Had a very interesting discussion today with Lex. James, myself, Tristan and Lex all gathered together talking about Impala and alarm calls. And the fact that during the rutting season, it sometimes gets very difficult to tell the difference. Obviously, it's very easy when they're making their deep grunting call, but when they make that sharp bark that they do, it becomes much more difficult to try and figure out whether or not they're alarm calling at something that's actually serious or if they're just going through the rut. And the reason that's interesting is something called distraction technique. And there's theories by people who sit and observe Impala, and I wouldn't be surprised, because I've seen it a few times, but I haven't interpreted that behavior as such. Two fighting male Impala, where one gives an alarm call in order to distract its opponent, which feels like very sort of low technique, doesn't it? Doesn't feel very sporting at all. But basically the idea is that one will snort and look at a direction so that the other one turns and looks in that direction, giving the first Impala the opportunity to pounce. I think we need to keep an eye out for that and see whether or not we think it actually really plays out. Are they thinking that deeply about their fighting techniques? Possibly. That's like saying to your opponent, look over there, and then punching them in the back of the head. Doesn't seem sporting at all. And I mean, I suppose if you're an Impala, it's not quite like being a human being where somebody says, look over there, and you go, no, I think you are... Thanks, Lou. I'll chat about the update I've just got in a moment. You know, if somebody says to you, look over there, you can go, oh, come on, and probably not risk being attacked. Whereas if you're an Impala and you go, nah, I'm not that gullible, and then you get eaten by a leopard, you're going to feel rather silly in your last few moments. So it pays to pay attention. So Lou's just given me the update that the lions are not where Tristan left them. I don't know whether I feel better or worse about that. I haven't seen any tracks coming out. Possible I missed them. I'll do another circuit just to double check. Tormented zombie owl. I've often wondered about that. Tormented zombie owl says, well, surely the car's scent is strong enough to mask our human scent. It wasn't yesterday, that much I can tell you. Yeah, I guess that's definitely a possibility. But I think that the animal's sense of smell is so powerful, especially if we're sitting still with the vehicle off, that maybe if a gust of wind blows from behind us, blows our scent towards them, they'd still pick up on the human smell. I'm not sure. I think a lot of it is masked by the vehicle's smell and the vehicle's noise as well. I hear a little dwarf mongoose in here. I would love to see them. I had such a special sighting with this group once with their babies. Eli, Yellow Bear. Another question is, can animals smell fear? They can certainly sense fear, and yes, I think they probably will, if they are experienced enough, they can probably detect changes in your body's scent. I mean, of course, when you're scared, your sweat glands go into overdrive, your adrenaline increases, and if certain species of dog can sniff out things like cancerous growths, I don't see why an animal wouldn't be able to detect a change like that. Mostly, though, I think it's actually more that they detect changes in your body language. You know, they always say with horses, they can tell if you're frightened when you're riding. And I've found that to be largely true. But although it's usually with a horse that inherently is onto a sort of a misbehaving streak regardless. But they probably pick up changes in our body language very easily. And certainly if you run away, that's going to encourage the animal to chase you. But I think the animal would have to be quite familiar with you and with the human smell before they could detect the fear. Okay, good news. We've not just got the Impala here. The dwarf mongoose have popped out. They've come out to play as well. Oh no, they're all gone now. They were in the road. I promise you they were in the road. Now there's just a hornbill. I think we're right next to their escape route. The dwarf mongoose, that is, not the hornbill. I promise you I saw about 5 of them in the road a second ago. One of them just ran across. Promise you it just ran across. It's gone now. Oh, another one just ran across. Okay, I'm not imagining things, I promise. While I search for imaginary dwarf mongoose and possibly imaginary lions, there's one person who's convinced that those lions were real. That's Tristan.
Well, I am indeed, Jamie, because I saw them, so I know that they are somewhere around here, but I've come to where we left them this morning, and there is no sign. We found where they were lying down, but they're not there anymore, so we're just trying to see if we can find tracks, but it is really, really not easy in this block. Where we are, you can see the color of the grass is perfect for this lioness and lion to disappear, and if they're lying flat on their sides, we could walk within a few meters of them, and as long as they don't pop their heads up and look at us, we might even just miss them, so it really is not easy. Also, we've got lots of grass cover, which makes tracking quite tough. But what I'm trying to do is just kind of follow the route that they were walking this morning, and just seeing if I can't find some sort of track that indicates that they've come in the same direction. It is quite difficult when you're walking through these areas to see where they've gone, but normally what will happen is any sort of predator or cat, generally like lion and leopard, they like to follow a certain sort of direction. It doesn't mean that they follow it exact the whole way, but generally it's a similar sort of pattern that they head in. And these lines the whole morning were kind of going northeast the whole time, so we're now just checking the northeastern side of where they were and going slowly northwards, and we're scouring the grass and hoping that from somewhere here one of these lions will stand up and we'll be able to actually see them. I'm actually hoping more for the male than anything else, because the female this morning, when she went flat in the grass, it was almost impossible to see her. The male, at least with that mane, means that you can see the mane a little bit, and if he pops his head up, we'll be able to see the mane over the grass, and that's what we're looking for. So at the moment it's all about just walking quietly and watching exactly where we are and just checking and making sure that we've got our wits about us, because we don't really want to bump into lions too close in thickets like this. So while we kind of see what we can do, and if we can't find these lions, let's go across to James, who's found some more elephants.
We're having a very special time with this herd of elephants that I'm going to call the tuskless herd from now on. That is one with tusks, obviously. But just over here, there are two calves walking past. They have no tusks. They are quite small, but they're big enough to have just that first eruption of the tusks. And I think the reason for their lack of tusks will become apparent to you very shortly. Now, we've seen these elephants before, and the one that Seb is now showing you has got no tusks. And I think she is the mother of at least one of these, and possibly the grandmother of one of them too. Oh, one of them's got a little bit of a cold, sniffle. And they're just walking both sides of us. It's a very special sighting. They're so close by that I'm just being nice and quiet. Oh, look, isn't it sweet? And there goes one with tusks. She's got a slightly, I don't know how to put a finer point on this, distended vulva, can I say that on live television? But if you look, she looks like she's in a bit of difficulty there, and I wonder if she is she's definitely not pregnant, I don't think, but maybe she's in estrus. This is a very special little sighting, everyone. They're just completely ignoring us. I think they've had their drink at the Chitwa Dam, and now they're moving away. And here is, I think, the lady responsible for the tusklessness of the herd. Laurie, you ask, of course, an obvious question, which I perhaps should have answered, but you say, why don't they have tusks? I think it's totally genetic. And sorry, this is the slightly younger one, the tuskless one. I think the matriarch, who is also tuskless, is the one going to come out here, just over there. She's just slightly bigger, Seb. You see her there? Yes. And I think that's her. Seb, you're about to be removed from the car by this tuskless elephant cow. Seb, I'm afraid, was unable to swing past close enough to be able to... You can do it now, you can go the other way. She's right here. She looked like she was going to reach into the car and pull Sebastian straight out. Here she is. Magic Wolf, you are a new viewer. It's wonderful to hear your new name, and you're wondering, obviously, is this happening like right now? The delay between us seeing this and you seeing it is probably about 3.5 seconds. So yes, it is happening right here, right now, completely live, out of the northeast corner of South Africa, the western fringes of the Greater Kruger National Park, and you are looking at some elephants with us, completely live. How cool is that? Live safari from wherever you happen to be in the world. So you can see that the genetic origin of the tusklessness runs strong, or the genetic line of tusklessness runs strong in this herd. Now we know, of course, that the females in a herd are normally closely related to each other, and so the tusklessness is not surprising. If we found it in one, it's not surprising that we find it in others. Ah, it's beautiful. And there, the astounding foot structure of the elephant, even when you've got a tiny little elephant like that, which is They're not that tiny. I mean, they're probably, that elephant, I would imagine, weighs between 250 and 300 kilograms, which is a substantial amount. It's as much as a zebra stallion. Yeah, tormented zombie owl, I'm not sure. I mean, we were looking at that cow that, I'm not going to repeat what I said, but a distended sort of opening underneath. And you say, is that common in elephants in estrus, in the same way that males... Another small one behind us, just saying hi. Is it common, is it normal in elephants that are in estrus in the same way that it is for males who are in must? Tormented zombie owl, I don't know. I've never heard of it happening, but we do know that males follow females in estrus. They pick it up out of their urine. It wouldn't surprise me at all if they were about to ovulate, that they should have some kind of discharge. Using all the lovely words this afternoon, some sort of discharge which the males might then pick up on, and yeah, so I think that's quite possible, but I'm not sure. This is wonderful. I will just tell you that Thandi and Thamba were refound, and they are on Little Gowrie, so we couldn't have gone back there, I'm afraid. Let's just count the number of tuskless elephants here. 1, 2, 3. I think there are 2 little calves, 1 big cow, 1 smaller calf, at least 1 bigger calf, and 1 adult, but smallerish cow, if you know what I mean. So 1 big cow, who I think is the matriarch of this herd, her daughter, and possibly her other daughter and a granddaughter of hers, I suspect. How magic. What a magical sighting. Lady Starfire, there's some debate about this, and you say how, this is getting to playtime now, you say how do tuskless bull elephants manage to compete for mating opportunities when they are big? I imagine with difficulty, but I'm not convinced of how important tusks are for mating in the same way that manes are important in lions for mating. I'm sure they must play a role. But, I mean, certainly an elephant with strong, thick, outward-pointing tusks is going to have a much better chance of fighting off a tuskless male. But, you know, those huge tuskers with those tusks dragged along the ground, you can't see them being effective for fighting. So maybe there is an element of peacock's tail in it, and there could well be, where, you know, they're just an appendage that helps to attract females. That's possible, but I'm not sure. I'm kind of the opinion that those anomalously large tusked bulls, you know, the ones with the tusks that reach the ground, are almost not freaks, but they're sort of aberrations, if you like, in the population. And I think that if elephants were, or, you know, that much more successful with huge tusks, I think you'd find far more of them with large tusks, in the same way that you find all peacocks with long tails. So I think that the length of and thickness of an elephant's tusks probably is not necessarily related to their breeding success. And I'm pretty sure somebody's done research on this. I'm ashamed to say I have not seen any of it, and so I couldn't tell you for 100% sure. This is all coming out of my sort of general biological understanding. I think we should go around the corner a bit here and see if we can catch them coming out into the clearings. Right, we have got a message on the radio which I didn't quite hear. It was something like, while we reposition, we can link to Brent.
Well, there we go. No tuskless critters on out here. As you can see, a lovely big herd of elephants. They're quite far away from us. It's just such a lovely scene that Dave and I could not drive past. And look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. Ellies under wide open skies. Some lovely little cloud formations around. And they're about to pass a poor lone shepherd's tree. I have just got a message from Jeffrey, who's one of the Angama guides, who I've been conversating with. We're in this area. I'm checking this side. He's checking that side for the cheetah we're with this morning, and he's just let me know it's over there. So I just wanted to see where he was. So we're going to have to shoot off quite quickly. We're going to show you. Oh, look at that elephant with the rain behind it. But we're going to try to see if that cheetah has had any success over the day while we've been searching for other things. And it is quite a drive to get there. So we're going to make our way straight towards her. And I'm afraid I didn't hear who I'm linking to, but from Kenya to South Africa.